Hey, it's your boy Dre off the top. Hey, thank you for the rates and reviews on Apple Podcasts and other services that you listen on. It's really appreciated. Now do more. Okay? We need more. Bring me more. Bring us more.
What is more? Like, are they supposed to tell their moms?
No, yeah. Everybody. Because especially on Apple Podcasts, you can only leave one review per account. Trust me, I tried. Don't ask me how I know this.
Is admitting that a term of service violation, Andre?
Let's start the show.
Step into video game land. Welcome to Fine Time.
Hello, party people. It's your boy Dre. It is also your boy Steve.
Yup.
You guys got to get better at these intros, Kevin.
Oh, fuck yeah. Here I am. Hello. What's up?
Take off them pants and dance.
I'm swinging my shirt above my head right now.
like Magic Mike
here,
XXXL.
I am excited and I am half naked.
Hot.
It's not picking up on the mic, but I'm just snapping my pants off right now.
Oh, I think we heard that. Do it again.
Yep. There we go.
There you go. That was hot.
Elastic waistband tonight. I like it.
We give the people what we want. We give the people what they want.
Nah, we give the people what we want most.
Wow. You know what? Now I have to leave that in because you guys laughed at it. Oh, man. All right. From, I would say, 2009 through like 2016, Nintendo was a masterclass in not giving the people what they wanted. And one of those games, in my opinion, was Super Mario 3D World. Now, famously, I have never had a Wii U, so I've only ever played this game for a few minutes here or there at a friend's house. I knew one friend who had a Wii U, and I played some stuff there, usually Mario Maker.
Before we get started on this, I want to ask how much of your take on this game is painted by your association of this game with the Wii U?
I mean, look, I can't lie, some of it, right? But I'm obviously, by the fact that I bought this on Switch, I'm playing this on Switch. I bought Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. I'm not going to spend money on something just to be like, well, it sucks. You know, I genuinely wanted to give this game a chance, right? That's why I got it. Like, you know, for realsies. But yeah, I'm not going to deny it. Like, some of it has that Wii U stank, and I don't like that. But so does New Super Mario Brothers U, and I almost kind of love that game. So, you know, I could get over it if the game's good enough.
Sometimes you can appreciate that stank.
Sometimes, not this time. But yeah, I decided to finally give this a try in full by myself instead of at kiosks. I feel like kiosks are the number one way people have played Wii U games, but you know, that's another discussion. I had well to Kevin's point, I had been avoiding this game for a reason. Obviously, it came out a while back on Switch, and I'm just like, man, I don't feel like I'm really gonna like this that much. Turns out I was right, but not for the reasons that I thought. Can we start here? And I don't know if I've ever said this on Fine Time. I think just the name Super Mario 3D World is kind of embarrassing and stupid. It's a sequel to Super Mario 3D Land on 3DS. That's just crazy to me. Imagine if Nintendo 64 launched with 6 golden coins too. Like, I can't even process such a thing. Right? But for some reason, this like Super Mario 3D World, 3D doesn't mean anything anymore because the system doesn't have 3D like it was called that on 3DS for a reason. Now it doesn't make any sense.
If they took the 3D out and just called it Super Mario World, that wouldn't make a lot of fucking sense either.
No, that's why you should come up with something more original than this, Steve.
Well, I mean, if I was going to sit there in 2012 and we needed a name now, I would have come up with Super Mario Brothers Odyssey. But, that's just me.
You would have added the brothers. Imagine if that game was Super Mario Brothers Odyssey.
I'm being facetious, obviously. But
I understand. It's just that, we just recently made fun of Super Mario Brothers Wonder. So, I don't know. Wonder.
I'll give you it's kind of a stupid name.
Yeah, thank you.
It was bad, Andre, even back then.
So you thought that?
Yes.
They should have if they wanted to follow up 3D Land, they should have stuck with the land and emphasized the land in a greater way rather than the
But
3D
land means
portion.
it's on a hat.
I know, but they could have taken that and ran with it, Super Mario Land Super.
I actually think that's better than Super Mario 3D World. So, okay, out of the way, and this, I don't know how much I want to blame the game for this, but since it was one of the selling points of the port, the online really sucks. I played the first 2 worlds of this game with Ven. I was straight up not having a good time. It was so bad. I don't know. Think of all the other shitty Nintendo netcode there is, whether it's Mario Maker 2 or any of the shit, Smash. It's the same thing.
Just severe latency issues.
Yeah, severe latency. Sometimes it felt like the game was slowing down too, I was jumping underwater. It sucked. I just can't believe it was this bad.
I'm not looking to defend this, but I think they just stapled this on during COVID. They had this plan to come out for Christmas, and then they had other things coming out for Christmas, and okay, we could delay this out for a few months and then just tack online onto it. Because online was not on the Wii U version, and more tellingly, it's not going to be in Super Mario Brothers Wonder in a few months.
Yeah.
So what does that say to you?
And it shouldn't be, honestly. The multiplayer in general, though, feels really frivolous. I understand this was a selling point to people who haven't played a game in 400 years. Oh, look, it's the 4 characters from Mario 2. Isn't that cute? Oh, we can all play together. Wow. That's not actually that fun. Do you guys really think it's fun to play this game in multiplayer? Basically what I'm trying to say is, even if the netcode were perfect, I still wouldn't have liked doing this very much. After 2 worlds, I just said to Vin, I'm sorry, but I'm done. I gotta stop doing this. And I played the rest of the game by myself.
I feel like I don't know that I ever think that simultaneous multiplayer in a Mario game is a good idea, but I think out of any of them, this one does it the best.
See, I'd rather play. I don't know. I had a miserable time trying that with New Super Mario Brothers Wii. That was kind of miserable.
Yeah, I think any of the 2D that turns into a mess.
I feel like this is a similar mess, though. I don't feel like this was any better, Steve.
The only one I've ever actually done multiplayer all the way through was on Wii, and we were just mostly drunk and laughing the whole way through, so it didn't really matter.
Drunk always comes up with the multiplayer stuff that isn't good. I was drunk. That is always a caveat.
but guys, I usually play these things alone, so I can't speak to the multiplayer. Sorry.
Okay, I guess I should talk about some fundamental reasons why I don't think this game is very good. I wouldn't say I hate Super Mario 3D World or anything. That's probably a bit strong, but I definitely will never play this again for several reasons. So, to keep you on track in these sort of contained levels, they do this 8-way movement thing, right? You have analog control, but you're really moving those snappy 8 directions. I feel like that's actually worse than just letting you have free reign, especially since the camera is zoomed out so far because they're assuming you're playing with other people. And it's the way the levels are built. You got to see that much, like a quote unquote real Mario game. and not an adventure one like Odyssey. Those two factors combined, the 8-way movement and the zoomed out camera, means I miss my jumps a lot. I land on stuff that like right in front of a Goomba a lot, or like I'm trying to swipe with the stupid cat Mario claws and I just whiff. Maybe it's just me. I don't know, man. I think those two things combined, Kevin, made it feel not very precise.
You don't think by the end you got pretty adapted to that? Because I know, like, you know, when you go through and you get all the stars and then you get like unlocking levels in the final world, it gets hard as shit and you need to be very precise to get through that. And I had literally one level at the very end and I could not get through that one, but I feel the core mechanics are there to be able to support that level of precision if you can get adapted to it.
I suppose you could get adapted to it. I just wish there was an option where I didn't have to do that, where they didn't have that snappy sort of 8-way movement. I wish I could just sort of run around. You know, I don't know. Maybe the game just isn't built for that, but whatever. I guess I don't know how fair of a comparison this is since this is like several years later, but Steve, you know, in Kirby and the Forgotten Land, the hitboxes are relative. Like you're Kirby and you have the sword, right? If you're slashing at a Waddle-Doo or something and you're like right on with the camera, you're going to hit it. I've never whiffed anything in that game because that game, if you can, someone figured this out. I don't know if you ever saw the video. If you spin the camera, sometimes you could be off from like the Bronto Burt or whatever with the sword and you'll still hit it because the camera is aligned as such where it's like that should be a hit, even if it's just a little bit off. Do you understand what I mean? Does it make any sense?
I understand what you're trying to tell me. I didn't notice that, but I do get why you would be having a harder time with this. I mean, I'll be honest, I cheated a lot of 3D World by playing Luigi in the cat suit.
I mean, I did use Mario the whole time. And yes, if I died a bunch and that stupid like leaf came up, I used it. Remember what a controversy that was? People thought it was like cheating or like, remember what a talking point? Maybe it's just my Twitter feed back in the day.
I think people were mad it was there. Like period, that it was included.
You don't have to use it.
Yeah, no, I fully agree.
No, I haven't used it, but I get the point where it's like, hey, you died twice. You want to use it? No, I just want to keep trying to get this coin. Okay, stop fucking judging me.
I didn't respect this game worth a fuck. I definitely, if that thing came up, I used it, so I didn't care. I just wanted to be done. The art style. I feel like a lot of people will agree with me that the art style doesn't really do a whole lot here. It's just kind of Mario by numbers. I don't know how you guys feel. Ultimately, I don't feel like this game has a very strong voice. And the most controversial thing I'm going to say about it, and you'll probably guess, I genuinely feel like New Super Mario Brothers has a better like aesthetic than this. And everyone shits on those games. And I genuinely think that those games have more of a voice, an artistic voice, than 3D World.
I feel like Captain Toad did a lot of the heavy lifting and a lot of people's fondness for 3D World. It did get a game of its own a year later.
So you agree?
I mean, it's literally, a lot of it is literally building blocks for chunks of the game. And then there's what? Ice World, Fire World.
No, they're not. Let me get to that real quick, because that's one of my complaints too. I think the theming in this game is terrible, because you get to the ice world you just mentioned, almost none of those levels are ice levels. Like maybe the first one is, but like, and then you're doing like, here's a block for it in the sky. And then here's like, there was a beach in the ice world. Why is there a beach?
Yeah, here's me remembering the world map more than the game, apparently. See, I guess it was only overwhelmingly okay.
I'm sure the water at that beach was chilly.
Oh, it was not. They let me swim in that shit. It wasn't like Mario 64 where you take a dip in Snowman Land or whatever, and you say, it's like, whoa, what happened to my health, right? No, they just... it's so weird for a Mario game to be forgetful of stuff like that. Now, look, I'm not saying that like every single level in an ice world needs to be made of ice. At the same time, think of like Mario 3's World 6. They never let you forget, right? Even if you're doing a cave level or whatever, an underground place, you're going to pop in that pipe in the snow and pop right back out of it in the snow to go backstage to get that card. Like you're not going to forget where you are. And they really make use of the theming there. I understand it's one of the best games of all time, but maybe like like Mario 3D World should maybe aspire to have some better theming than that. But it's not just the ice world; all the worlds are like that. They just do whatever the fuck they want. They have no theming. It's weird. I often complain about Mario Sunshine like over theming. Okay, I get it. Everything's a beach. Everything's water. Fine. I'll take the sunshine over 3D World, just throwing stuff at you.
You'll feel the sunshine.
I'll feel the sunshine. How does that Sonic R song go?
I had it until just now.
Let me feel. Well, Richard Jock will probably sue us, so let's not sing that. I would love to talk about the course design in general more. However, like that's something that's going to have to sink in for a while. I kind of just beat the game last night as of this recording. So I wish I could articulate better. Actually, let me ask that to Kevin. Did you feel like the course design in 3D World was like that Nintendo like special quality? Because I kind of feel like they're just things for 2, 3, 4 players to hop around and have fun. I didn't really feel like a strong like.
You know what? I think that's a good point as far as the multiplayer. I think it was it probably lost something in translation because everything was explicitly designed to be able to play with 4 people at a time. So just based on that, it's got to be left a little bit more wide open and generic.
Yeah. I think I would be okay with that, though, if the theming were more on point, but it's not. It's a combination of those two things. But anyway, that'll have to come.
Connects and Ladybugs aren't on theme?
No, they are not. There was Ladybugs?
Maybe I'm thinking of 3D Land again.
Yeah, I don't think I saw a single Ladybug.
The little rainbow flying bug things. I guess that's 3D Land.
I guess so. I did play 3D Land, and I actually really like 3D Land. Let me put that out there, too. I did actually really enjoy 3D Land, and you guys know I don't make caveats for anything. Oh, it's an indie game. Oh, it's whatever. I will make caveats for hardware limitations, and what they pulled off with 3D Land on 3DS, impressive. That's not the reason why it's a good game, but like, I feel like I enjoyed the levels in that a lot more. See, I'm trying to think of it from back then. If I had played 3D Land and then 3D World right after at the time, would I have thought like, is this really better? I mean, I already feel that way anyway, but I probably would have definitely felt that way back then. Probably the most bothersome thing about Super Mario 3D World, it just doesn't have an original bone in its body. Listen to all those music callbacks. Oh, here's the flagpole. Oh, here's the slot machine from Mario 2. Oh, here's an auto-scrolling row of tanks like Mario 3 World 8. Oh boy, here's a rabbit. You better catch him for a star. Where have I seen that before? Here's your umpteenth cloud section where you run forward with the Starman in the clouds and then get a star afterwards, which I whiffed the first time and I got so mad at myself because fucking lag online. Here's a Mario Kart course for some reason, I guess. Here's a water slide with Nessie with the Mario 64 slide song, I guess. Like, I'm sorry. Like, that just feels like it's a thing I always complain about with movies like that Chip and Dale movie a couple years ago where it's like the whole movie is like, remember this? Yeah, I remember that. I'm 41 fucking years old. Like, can you show me something else, please? I understand. Maybe I'm not the target audience for this, and in fact, I would certainly say that I'm not. It's probably like really geared towards kids.
I don't know. You know what? I'm kind of buying the Kool-Aid because I think I came in here more ready to defend this than I want to. And the more you're talking, the more now I'm going like these are all completely valid points, especially when you were talking about like going into this after 3 Land, because I have very fond memories of 3D Land. It's definitely possible that I paint this with that same brush unfairly.
I mean, I'm glad I'm swaying you around. Maybe I should run for president. Anybody can nowadays, right? Number two, yeah, I feel like it's one of those retrospect things. That's kind of why I wanted to talk about this at length, because I do feel like a lot of people who say like 3D World's a shit, I feel like it's part of the era, because you had a Wii U and not that you like had to like everything because it was on Wii U and you chose the stupid system, but because like you got, it's Mario, but when you think about it a little deeper, not so much, because I'll put it this way. When I played it at my friend's house, this would be like 2015-ish. I didn't mind it then either. I wasn't really that critical of it. Hop and bop. We're both hop and bopping around this landscape. Oh no, you threw me off the edge for some reason. That's annoying. But hey, why did I split in two? I got a cherry. A cherry? I can turn into a cat now? What the hell is going on, right? But after that wears off, you see it's kind of surface deep. I know a lot of the things I'm saying feels like nitpicks, and maybe they are, but they all add up. And I feel like 3D World isn't very cohesive. Mario Odyssey has you do a lot of various tasks, crazy tasks that doesn't seem like they should work together, but they do. It doesn't feel random when the T-Rex chases you in New Donk City. Like that doesn't feel like it came out of nowhere. It's surprising, but it's like, oh, okay. Or the other one in New Donk City. Remember the one with the crowd of people? You have to get through the crowd of people or whatever. All those kind of things feel like, if just describing them to you, it's like, what is that doing in a Mario game? But it works. So Super Mario Brothers Wonder looked more imaginative in its little trailer than this entire game did.
I'm just trying to figure out who's still being the real Super Mario 3D World stands, and even 2020 when this came out, because when they were for first showing Mario Odyssey, like for real in 2017, I was very much Super Mario 3D what by that point, especially when I got to see it for real. Like, I mean, I won't say I hate it either, but I'm like, this is a much different, better looking experience, and we never need to look back at 2013 ever again.
Kevin, have you ever heard a record where, like, seriously, like the first few notes, you're like, okay, this is gonna be the shit, and you're completely correct. Like, you were totally on point on that. Mario Odyssey, when he just popped out of the ground, you know what I mean?
I know what you're saying.
This is gonna be the best. This is gonna be the absolute fucking best. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, I never at any point felt that way about 3D World when it was shown. Real quick, I haven't gotten to do a whole lot of Bowser's Fury. Have you guys played Bowser's Fury? Just
no,
I have.
Okay, you played the whole thing, Kevin?
Yep.
It's a very strange idea. I'm not sure why Giga Bowser is Godzilla or anything, but hey, why not? It's bizarre. It almost feels haphazard and kind of slapped together, since you kind of just run from any of these courses like free flowing anywhere you want. It's weird, but I think I kind of like it. I don't know. I guess I have to play more, but what did you think?
Yeah, I really liked it, and I think you'll come away with the same thing. I think you'll say this was definitely the highlight of the game for me.
Okay. Yeah. So I wish I could say more about it, but I haven't got to do a whole fuck of a lot. Anyway, I talked way too long about Super Mario 3D World. Thanks to everybody, rather, for indulging me in this endeavor. So someone else talk about video games, Steve.
Okay. I need to level with you people. I've been playing a fuck ton of Spiritfarer, and why is that? Because a friend of the show, Kiefer, had it on his show, Selected Start, a while ago. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll fucking start playing it already. And I did, and I can't talk about it at length because it would ruin the game. You know what you do in that game without ruining it for everyone? You build a big ark, and you bring all your ghost friends on, and you make a farm, and you get farms and houses and ships, and you go fishing. And that sounds like fun, right? Without spoiling anything? Yeah, that's why I'm not going to talk about Spiritfarer today. We're not the show that talks about Spiritfarer without ruining it.
Wait, you do farming in Spiritfarer? This has to be a Switch game.
It's on everything.
Okay.
I think it's actually on Netflix with your sub too, but don't quote me on that. Instead, I'm going to pull a Kevin and talk about something in my home life. You remember last week when you all were like, Steve, all the dogs can't be good boys. And I was like, no, some are good girls too. Ha, 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 ha. And then we all had a good laugh, sad laugh for 2 seconds. Well, guess what, guys? Life comes at you fast. I have a new dog in my house now.
All because of our conversation last episode.
Totally
it was
why that
ours
happened.
Fault.
Yes.
That's exactly why that happened. Totally had nothing to do with other extenuating circumstances beyond my control and me feeling bad for a dog. Yep, it's totally because of the conversation we had last episode.
Good.
So now I have a dog named Butter.
Butter.
Why is the dog named Butter? Well, we settled on a bunch of other names before deciding, well, he's kind of colored like butter, so Butter it is. And then he ended up being slippery smooth like butter whenever you weren't paying attention. So it really stuck. He's a 6-month-oldish collie Jack Russell mix. So says my paperwork. It's because I don't know if I really buy that all the way. He's got big triangular ears, not unlike a corgi.
He has anime ears. He definitely has anime ears.
Yeah. And he's cried like a beagle at least once. So not unlike longtime resident Stella, who is definitely an English bulldog. The best track I have on what Butter is he's friend-shaped.
He's shaped like friend. Stella is a nice, dignified older lady, and Butter is probably driving her insane.
They're doing their best. It's actually quite touching a good chunk of the time. You know, they're all fuzzy babies. Dogs are all fuzzy babies, and Butter is still literally a fuzzy baby who's teething right now. He's also incredibly curious and a bit exuberant, and that's about what we expected. But that doesn't stop him from, finding a styrofoam cup where we didn't realize we had a styrofoam cup when your back is turned. Like, oh, thanks, little guy. Thanks for finding that for me. And you take that so you make sure he doesn't chew that too much. But okay, the dog does love to play, though. We go outside. My eyes aren't as great at frames and such as Andre's is, but I'm pretty sure he's breaking all the known records when we're playing fetch. That boy loves fetch. You throw the ball, he is gone. He is back with the ball in a few seconds. We love that game.
Let's be real, though. Do you really want to play fetch at 30 frames a second? I mean, come on. The fluidity there would just be shot. I mean, come on.
What did I miss? Are you accusing Steve of living his life in 30 frames a second?
Yes.
Look, even I'm pretty sure
I knew you were judgmental, but good God.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, he's, jokes aside, this is why I've been in a little bit, he's been keeping me busy. He's a good boy, and they're all good dogs. I'm sure I'll find a nice photo we could stick on social to boost our engagement and ploy for your likes and
Yes.
retweets. I'll do my best with all that, and I'll definitely be having a real video game to play next time that is not Spiritfarer.
I thought you were going to say a real game that is not dog.
Dog is life, Andre. When you take a dog into your life, that is a commitment.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. I'm a cat person, you know that. So, I've only ever had just cats.
Are they not a commitment?
They are, but they're also just kind of here. Yeah, they're here. What's up?
Well, I mean, eventually he'll be settled in, but he's had a rough life, Andre. He had, based on vet records, he was on the roads alone for a while, and he's easing in.
Has Butter ever said the word fuck?
I'm not teaching him that word, Andre.
He may have learned on them back streets before you got him. You don't know.
Yeah, if he was on the roads, he knows it already.
Yeah,
but he's been very polite so far.
Okay, good. All right, give it up for Butter, everybody. Claps for Butter.
My heart is warm. That's nice.
I liked it. Nobody clapped with me, and I can't name the episode that nobody's clapping because I already did that a year and a half ago.
I wasn't going to clap for my own dog.
I said, we're doing a podcast, right? We're doing a show. Maybe you should try sometime.
This is
Maybe
a
you should do it with
prerequisite.
me.
Like all of the all-time great podcasts, everybody claps together.
I mean, Jesus fucking
Never
Christ.
have we seen a successful podcast where the entire team doesn't clap in unison at least 4 times an episode.
No podcast I want to listen to.
We are destined for shit.
I mean, goddamn. Talk about video games, Kevin.
I'm not a very good podcaster, and I am kind of a piece of shit.
Oh no! What did you do?
Worse
now?
than me.
I have not had very much time in the last couple weeks to play video games either. I've still been picking away at Final Fantasy 16 a little bit, but I don't have much new. I'm sorry. But I've been eagerly anticipating for many months XENOTILT, the follow-up to Demon's Tilt Pinball. Which I've put definitely more time in than any pinball game when that was on Game Pass. I probably had a good 20 hours on that, and I've probably put another 10 hours on Switch after they pried it away from me on Game Pass. So I was definitely a fan.
You definitely turned me on to this game. You're the one who told me about it, and I got it on PS4, and pretty good game.
Yeah, it's awesome. XENOTILT is definitely a direct follow-up, aesthetically very similar, and it just came out in early access a few days ago here. Looks great. The music is fantastic. I don't have a solid understanding of how that board works and some of the mechanics at this point. It's got some depth, so I'll definitely have to spend some more time with it. That being said, I have not spent very much time with that in early access either for a few reasons. When I first downloaded it, I tried to launch it twice. It just completely crashed. I rebooted my computer. It did run. And then when I started playing it, I was using a Xbox controller and the latency was terrible. I was losing significant frames, and this is not what you want on a pinball game at all. So I was losing my balls left and right. Finally, I disconnected the Xbox controller, and it's definitely better playing on just keyboard, but I am still having some latency issues. So I do feel like this is just some early access hiccups. This was literally like hours after it came out on early access. I'm fairly sure it's not an issue with my computer because it's not, I'm not running a 4090 or anything, but I'm confident my computer is competent enough to run XENOTILT.
That's why I hope it comes to PS5 at 120 frames a second, because the super low latency on that will be incredible. Like the Pinball FX that came out earlier this year, you can run those at 120, and the way it feels in your hands is great. Like there is almost no lag time at all. Like that was even a problem with Pinball Arcade, back in the day, but it wasn't too bad. But now it feels excellent. So I hope XENOTILT.
Hoity-toity people with 120 hertz TVs can do that.
Oh boy. Okay, they don't have those. They don't have those up there yet.
Stuck at 60 hertz like peasants here, unfortunately. But I'm sure if I get to 60, a solid 60 frames a second, I'll be plenty happy with this.
Okay.
So I will. I'm going to keep a very close eye on this and kind of watch out as patch notes for the early access come out and keep trying it. And I will keep everybody posted because I'm sure at this point, once it runs fine, I'm absolutely going to love this. I also have to make a real quick shameless plug. I'm just generally saying it's interesting that I talked about Tony Hawk last episode and an alien themed game this episode, and I will leave it at that. I've got a project coming up. I'm very excited about it.
Should we leave it at that though? I kind of want to tell the people.
You think we should?
I want to tell the people.
And
I want to tell the people.
All right.
Tell the people.
I got Mick West to do an interview with me, and so that's going to be coming out following this episode the next week. So if you're not familiar with Mick West, not only was he one of the founders and owners of Neversoft Entertainment, he was the primary programmer on the first 5 Tony Hawk games. Separate from that, I have long wanted to do some sort of UFO themed podcast, and I haven't been able to find quite the right angle to come at that. Mick West retired from game programming in the early 2000s, right after Tony Hawk Underground came out, and he is literally the most prominent UFO debunker among other conspiracy theories, or possibly conspiracy theories. So we spent more time talking about aliens and conspiracy theories than we did Tony Hawk, but I think the episode turned out fantastic. So the week after this, that'll be coming out, and I'm pretty stoked.
I cannot wait to hear this. Full disclosure to the audience, I haven't even heard a rough edit of this yet, so I have no idea what's in here as of this recording. So I'm ready. I'm so excited.
I can't believe he agreed to do it.
Yeah.
I was telling these guys off air before recording, I lived in fear for a week that he was going to look a little bit closer at the show and say, well, I don't know if a show that the last episode was titled "I Thought You Were Circumcised" is necessarily a good fit, but I appreciate the offer. But no, he pulled through, and he was I was very gracious for it.
Well, and maybe he listened to the "I Thought You Were Circumcised" episode and learned a few things about Baldur's Gate 3.
He was just like, fuck, I'm learning about circumcision. These guys are great. Let's do this. Maybe that episode locked him in.
Yes, he saw that first.
Fuck yeah.
All right, we'll be right back with a few big questions.
You're coasting with Fine Time.
We're back. I was going to do the "we are back" chant again, but Kevin fucked it up, so I don't want to do it anymore.
Yep, sorry. All on Kevin.
It's all on old Kevin.
I guess that time we didn't all clap in unison just fucked up the whole show for tonight.
Yeah, well, for several shows in a row, since I'm still thinking about it.
Oh, jeez.
Look, why don't we get over and ask some big questions?
Are they really that big? Well, this one is a big question, Steve.
Oh, it's big enough, I'd say, because I guess it was last week. I'm on Twitter, and the Pokemon Center website, they're like the boutique for all the Pokemon merch, if you don't know, recently put up pre-orders for a plush for Wiglet. And guys, I'm not going to waste too much time. It's an albino penis. We already went on this Scarlet Violet show for a few seconds, but now that the merch is coming into full swing, they know that they're selling my first dildo, right?
You can't say that.
I know. I'm sorry. As soon as I said it, I cannot say that. That's not making the air. I just had to say it out loud. Okay, you know what? I won't air the joke, but I'll leave us laughing. How about that?
Okay. You can leave me letting you know you can't say that.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Look, I don't know when anything like this happens. Usually I'm like, how did this get through, like, almost said, how did this get through testing? But, like, seriously, Steve, they knew exactly what they were doing here. There's no way they don't. There's no way.
There's no plausible deniability here because it evolves into something called Wug Trio, which is 3 very red penises.
It's just I can't believe it. How much is it? How much is the dildo, the Pokemon dildo?
They're not that much. It's like, I think it's like $15-$20.
Oh, that ain't bad.
It's a stuffed toy. I have a bunch of Poke dolls here, that aren't dildos.
So says you. You've never actually showed us the shelf.
No, I wouldn't dare use anything in that. Don't be gross.
I'm being gross. I'm being gross. You have a Pokemon shelf of unseen toys that you won't show us, and I'm being gross.
Steve, you accused me of sexualizing the dog from Pikmin 4 last episode, so yeah, I'm on Andre's side.
Yeah, for no reason.
I didn't say I bought this thing. Come on.
You don't have to say it.
Like, I'm going to let this thing into my house. And what if someone else opens the box before I do? Then there's lots of uncomfortable conversations, and that's not worth it. For what? Fucking Wiglet?
Oh, man.
It's a pocket monster, see?
Oh, oh, my God. Okay,
what a classy show.
Oh, we are the best. We're the absolute best. This is what the people want. We're going to give it to them. Oh, man. You're telling me a Pokemon dildo shows up on the scene and Fine Time isn't going to talk about it? Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, we are.
I know. I'm just saying I'm not gonna like tell my mom about the show ever.
Oh, well, please don't. Okay, I guess we can talk about almost a real topic, but it's not really. The Xbox 360 store is closing next year. I think Microsoft said July 2024. The Xbox 360 store is going away. You will no longer be able to download games to that system from that store, and anything on there, gone. And so, besides the usual alarmists out there going, OMGs, we're losing these games forever, which of course is not true. And so I don't even want to acknowledge those people this time. Let me put it from this perspective. I don't know if it was last big deal or 2 big deals ago where we were talking about the Xbox Live Gold becoming Xbox Game Pass Core. You remember that? And I was saying something about that didn't feel right, but I couldn't really articulate it. Kevin, you're trying to kind of goad me this or that way, and I'm like, I don't know, I just can't, you know what I mean? I can't say why I don't like it really that much, but I just think
these are directly associated.
Yeah, I think they're trying to get rid of anything from the 360 era, which to me is strange because I feel like that's the only era of Xbox people have a true affinity for. Maybe the original Xbox, maybe.
Maybe that's why they're trying to get rid of it, because no, you guys never liked Xbox. It's always been shitty like this.
The Xbox One monolith has now swallowed the earth. Excuse me, the Xbox Series X. See, I still can't get it right. God damn it. I will never get it right, Kevin. I don't know. You guys have any deep thoughts about this? I don't think this is a big deal. It's about time, Steve.
I will be the guy that stands in front of the arrows here. What's on here that wasn't already removed or hasn't seen a better version on a newer console that you're all going to miss? Do you all really want that Symphony of the Night port that's missing the opening so it could reach that file size limit in 2006? Or all those washed out looking remastered HD games of the time? Is that what we all want on the store for all eternity? Is that what we're all crying about right now?
There's a lot of weird stuff on that store that I think can just stay in the past. Konami put out a number of classics like ER Kung Fu and Russian Attack and stuff, and there's like a new graphics version, which is just because back then we were afraid of pixels, right? 2D. Oh no, we just can't have games that look like that on our new HD system, right? So they always try to HDify those sprites, which as you well know, never really looks that good. So I don't know, Kevin, do you have any deep thoughts about this?
I'm never, stoked when they're closing these stores, but I never get too upset about it. And this is the least bummed out I've been about one of these, news announcements. That as many issues as Xbox has had in the last couple generations, they have been very good on keeping software available on current platforms. So people have had plenty of chances to get this stuff. And so many of the discs are backwards compatible, for the stuff most people are going to want to play. I don't think Xbox 360 discs on the used market are ever going to get very expensive. There's just a million of them. And I just think from that era, I can't see it. I mean, with Wii U and 3DS, again, I was, I said that's fine, but I did feel a need to go into those stores and clean up on a few things that I thought in the future, someday I'm going to say, I wish I would have bought this. So I got it now. I don't even feel like I need to go in and do this. It's fine.
Kevin made sure to get his pristine copy of Devil's Third before it went away forever.
Oh, I promise you're not missing much with that one, guys.
I left Devil's Third alone.
It's not even so bad it's good, Steve. Like, it's got to be amusing in some way.
It's amusing, but it's not. Let's pay $200 on eBay for it.
There's
amusing.
no way people are charging that for Devil's Third. No fucking way.
I think
in the
it's
world.
way more than that. Like way more than that.
Oh
now.
my fucking God. What's wrong with people? Anyway.
Hold on. We're gonna find out real quick.
Okay, yeah. Okay. You look it up. Me and Steve will. Okay. I think the cheapest copy you're gonna find is, see, now that you told me that, $185.
So I'm not looking on eBay. I always use pricecharting.com, and for a opened but complete inbox, so with the case, with the manual, average price on the used market is $325. The disc alone loose $316.
Go fucking suck a cock. Get out of here. There's no way. Why would anyone do that?
It's one of those things because it people know it's hard to find and it's rare, and they absolutely need to have that complete Wii U collection on the shelf to look at for no reason. That's why it's expensive.
Glad we don't know anyone like that. What? Who said that?
So, hey, I got while we're on Nintendo,
he's moving right along.
got awkward in here.
I didn't feel awkward at all. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Look, we're on topic because, got a September Nintendo Direct's on pretty much on the cards, right? They've been doing one every year for like forever now. I'm not going to question if it's coming. So I'm just more curious if you guys think, is it Metroid Prime 2 time?
Metroid Prime 2 Remastered. I would love very much if this happened. I still feel like it's a little too early for the rumor mill to get going on this stuff. I feel like once September 1st hits, it's like, okay, Nintendo Direct talk time, which of course they're going to have. They got to sell Mario Wonder somewhere. We've only ever seen that little blip from last Direct, right? So they got to show more than that. When does that come out again? Is that October? Mario Wonder?
Yeah, late October.
Okay, yeah. So they really got to get that marketing machine going. So yeah, in the next few weeks, we're probably going to see a Direct. I don't know, Kevin. Metroid Prime 2 Remastered, your favorite game in the series?
I would say it's a 100% getting announced with release date, if not same day as the next Direct. Just assuming, like with the rumor cycle lasted for the whole trilogy for years and years and years. It turned out to be true, and I can't see. I'm sure they're going to get those the each entry in the trilogy released before the next console comes out. So I'd be, and I don't think they're going to drop 2 months before, Super Switch comes out. So I think that the timing lines up, providing we're getting a new console sometime possibly late next year.
We're gonna, two things. One, I hope Metroid Prime 2 Remastered comes out and Jeff Grubb didn't bet his hair again on it. Number two, we're gonna have to have our first emergency pod, right? Whenever they announce that system, I always think back to like, October, November 16 or whatever, when they showed Switch, we would have absolutely been at this microphone like ASAP. Yeah. We gotta do that. We have not had an emergency podcast in the history of Fine Time so far, but I think that would warrant one. Even if we just get on here for like 15, 20 minutes and just like be like, what the fuck was that? We got to do it.
Video games in my butthole. What the hell was that, guys?
Video game, though, I told you to not buy that stuff from the Pokemon store.
Okay.
Good answer.
Good answer. Okay. Kevin has one more big question for us.
Yeah, a fairly generalized question. I watched a YouTube video a few days ago, and so broad strokes, this video was basically about why, despite the games industry pulling in income in orders of magnitude larger than, other pop entertainment, books, movies, TV, sports, etc., it doesn't have the same cultural mind space in pop culture. Now the video creator was very upfront about not having, good working knowledge of the modern games industry, but I think he has a very valid point in saying that, we know video games are very popular, but we never think about them as widespread, just things that people commonly do, like watching movies, watching TV. And so he posed a number of reasons why he thinks that is, things kind of like, gamers themselves have kind of had a focus on gaming being a subculture. One point I thought was really relevant was, when games really blew up, really got mainstream, really started to make a lot of money, was kind of around the same time, that the internet became really popular, and there was kind of a lack of a grouping of single source like pop reference points, because everybody was getting their news from different places at that time, if that kind of makes sense. And so I'm kind of wondering, I guess, first of all, if you guys agree with that concept that income aside, we don't really think of video games just as far as how it's integrated into society the same way we do, even as we think of with sports. I don't think, and then I guess why that is.
This is really interesting. I feel like, well, there's a couple things that come to mind. One being, at least when I was a kid, I don't know how much this happens anymore, but video games are for kids. Video games were toys back then. They were just toys. They were made by Mattel, and besides Nintendo, right, or Atari, all the other ones were names that you knew. And it was just like, okay, they're just extension. They're just a toy you play in your TV. Toys are for kids. And as that went along, that also in the 90s, it became like, computers are for nerds, or like tabletop RPGs are for nerds or whatever. We always had this like thing where it's like, this is for this kind of person, or this is for kids, or this isn't grown up, or this isn't a real. And I think the AAA industry has like overreacted to that to a large degree, because think about every AAA game is rated mature and trying to tell this dark, gritty story, especially like back in the day with the dark eras that we don't like, the late 2000s, early 2010s. They were trying to like get away from that. 25-year-old, Billy or something, toxic masculinity Billy sitting on his couch. He only wants to play Call of Duty and, Gears of War. He Eternal Sonata, get that out of here, right? Like we're not playing. That's baby shit that we played in the 90s. Mm-hmm. That also ties into the Japanese stuff, attitudes towards JRPGs that we talked about some time ago. But, as all these things are connected, basically, is what I'm saying. And I don't know if I have an overall point, but just like there's a lot of little attitudes towards video games like that kind of prevent it from being up there.
Do you think in the modern day, though, that's still as applicable? Because I feel like probably especially since like the start of the PS4 era, that's largely gone away.
It has lessened, but it still exists, especially when people people always think of like video games as like you're wasting time. Oh, it's a waste of time to play video games. No one ever say it's a waste of time to go to the theater and watch Oppenheimer. It's a waste of time to sit on your couch and play Catherine for a few hours or whatever, right? Or Windjammers. Right? I don't know why I said Catherine. I've never even played Catherine. I don't know why I said that.
Fucking Catherine wasting everybody's time, ruining the children.
I think it's been on my mind because I want to play Catherine. I've been thinking about it recently. Maybe next big deal, I'll talk about Catherine. No, I won't. I'll be talking about Armor Core 6. Spoilers. Yeah, maybe that's part of it. I know I've been rambling. Steve, you got anything here? Because I've just been.
I think you pretty much broadly hit it there. I think video games, like a lot of these, I guess we can call it a internal hobby, is it's in its growing phase. Even even the smart guy hobbies, like how everyone would say, read a book. Like even that was heavily maligned by people that would say, that's time wasted. You're reading Ivanhoe when you should be outside tilling the fields or whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's all it's only 50-ish years old, and it's only been mainstream for the past 35-ish of those, if that. It's got room to grow culturally. It'll get there.
People generally don't like to hear this, but Nintendo didn't help with their policies back in the day in the 80s and 90s, because everything had to be, Nintendo is for kids, so we have to make sure there's no blood in our games and no crosses and nothing offensive, right? Of course, they did away with that once the ESRB started, but it took them so many years to shake that stigma, and to a degree, they still have it. Mm-hmm. And Nintendo was the popular thing, so obviously that didn't help either. And that stigma still persists. So
I want to pose another concept, because I think one thing that plays a factor as well when we think about the act of watching a movie. Obviously, there's different and distinct genres. Watching a horror is not the same as watching a comedy, but you're still, really interfacing with it in the same way. Whereas with video games, there's such a variety of ways that you like truly different ways that you're thinking when you're doing that. Even if you think like there are a lot of people that still play, like I don't know what like the new names for the popular ones are, but like games like Farmville, that kind of thing, right? People get really into that, like timing hook or whatever. You think about like puzzle games, you're thinking about that in a completely different way than you would an RPG. And I wonder if just the like a completely different way you would interface with these games kind of like fractures people like thinking about it as like one overall activity. Is there?
Yes, I understand what you mean, because some people will think like if they're playing, I don't know, Jetpack Joyride on their iPad or something, they say they don't play video games, so they play stuff like that. Well, that's a video game. Right? Yeah. But they don't, because they don't have a PS5. No, they're not sitting here playing Forspoken. Why do I keep picking weird games? Yeah, they're not sitting there playing Forspoken, right? But that to them has nothing to do with them playing Jetpack Joyride 2 on their iPad. Yeah. Does that?
And I think inversely, a good chunk of the enthusiast crowd looks down on those people in a way, or like speaks disparagingly about like that idea, at the same time maybe kind of separates that out.
Well, I've had this talk a while ago. Mobile games have gotten a lot better in the past decade, but I'll still see on Hulu or whatever like ads for the the scammy boomer games like June's Journey, where you're a lady detective, but you're really just playing highlights for kids and you're just solving the differences. Like, download it for free on your Apple iPad or Google's thing. It's free, but we got it loaded with ads. And I have to explain that to all the old people. I like, but it's free. But they load it with ads, and I'm sure they want you to give you your credit card so you can play for longer. I'm like, that's not. no, that's not helping either.
Yeah, that doesn't help because there's what Kevin was saying, like, people don't think of genres as equivalent, even though they're all quote unquote video games. Maybe that's it too, because there's no such thing as a movie where you have to pay like 99 cents every time I'm going to watch the next scene. Like, there's nothing like that. Right?
Don't even say that out loud because I'm
they
sure
thought
it's
about
coming.
it. They thought about it. There's no way they didn't think about that already. Of course they have.
We've got fucking DLC in real cars now where you've got to like pay a monthly subscription to have your like heated seats activated.
Yep, fuck them.
Didn't EA have a Need for Speed or whatever on mobile where you had to pay for gas?
Yes, they did.
Like, and it costed way more than real gas actually cost.
Sure did. Maybe not now though. but yeah. Do you guys remember the I don't know how much this has to do with the topic, but it reminded me of it, where like about 10 years ago when like PS4 and Xbone were just coming out and everything wanted to have like a second screen app.
Yes.
I remember at launch of PS4, Need for Speed Rivals came out, and there was a Need for Speed Rivals app where you could look at your like people online and you could like tap them, or your friends even online, and you could like do stuff to them. If you tap them on the map, it was like a real-time map of your friends that were online playing this. Hint, nobody, because I was the only one who had Need for Speed Rivals. But there was like so many things like that because they thought that's what we wanted, because they were still in the era of like mobile gaming is taking over. They read the telemetry wrong, basically. That's how we got Xbox One in the first place.
Do you think that was why? Because they thought that's what the market wanted, or was there something a little bit more sinister? When I think about that, the first thing I would go to is that they want to have a way to push notifications to your phone.
I'm sure that's part of it, but I don't think like the data stuff, like this is well before we got wise to like what Facebook and stuff was doing, right? So like I don't really think maybe that was part of it, but I genuinely think they thought that's what people wanted. I do think that.
Oh God, guys, remember when Arnold Schwarzenegger was selling not World for Tanks or whatever that game was? In the general uniform?
Yep.
Get ready for battle now. Free to download.
Yep. I remember those. He was all over them shits. Didn't Shaq do one? Because Shaq does everything. Didn't he do Clash of Clans or like?
He's done a few.
Yeah, he's done that. I don't know. But yeah, back on topic. Yeah, I think the only other thing I might have to say about this is that this goes back to the reason why I always advocate for real deal trade shows like E3 and stuff. We can't just be all digital out here. We need stuff like the Game Awards, because that legitimizes it to everybody. The same way we have the Oscars or the Grammys or whatnot. We can sit there and laugh at them and say, oh, the Grammys are bullshit or whatever, and they are. But those kind of prestigious awards and shows and stuff matter a lot in the industry.
When you talk about legitimizing it, do we want it like, quote unquote, further legitimized? Is that going to like bring any value to consumers?
I don't think so.
I think possibly it getting quote unquote legitimized in the first place did a lot more harm than good. I think you could attribute that to, all of the issues we have with modern games as a whole.
I agree with that, but just for it to be like movies or music or any other art form, it needs stuff like that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not even necessarily saying I want it to have stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I want E3 because I think people networking in person is important. It's not just about the presentations and stuff like that, which it is, of course, but it's about people literally being in the same physical space and making stuff happen, and I think that still matters. That's why I want E3.
Also, Andre just wants to have the Andre Goes to E3 2024 show.
I'm not going to fucking E3 anymore.
Rubbing shoulders with Miyamoto, no big deal.
No, See, I bet a good chunk of our audience doesn't even know that story now.
See, and he throws it out, the fucking biggest humble brag I've ever heard. Like, yeah, well, that is a real story, just so you know.
It's not a good story, though. I'll tell it some other time on the show.
And then Numa walked up to me personally and said, Andre, I love Fine Time. We need to see Mario's ass is my favorite episode. Would you like to see would you like to see the new Zelda? Behind closed doors, of course. We can't show anyone else.
Andre's story, just like the Xbox 360 store, has been pulled from the internet, and you are not allowed to access it anymore unless you find a way to somehow pirate it.
He's not joking. That's true.
It's gone.
Anyway, so I'll have to tell it on Fine Time some other time, but today is not that day. Okay, we got anything else? Was that it? We got all our notions of that out of the way?
That was it for me.
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll be right back with something else, I guess.
Fine Time.
We're back once again, and we're going to talk about this Baldur's Gate 3 discourse because I think there's a lot of interesting avenues about it. But let me say this first, because it's been something I've been thinking about. How is it we have been alive as long as we have? There has not been a single good Superman game our entire lives, or before we were alive. How is this the case? Is Superman as a concept like just what? He shoots lasers from his eyes and he flies. Like we can't. You tell me we can make crazy good Spider-Man games, or do you just?
Yeah, you would have thought they would have capitalized on that after Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, why not, Steve?
This is where I'll start admitting to being cartoon nerd again. I rewatched the 90s cartoon last year, and I've been watching My Adventures with Superman on Max. And the interesting thing about Superman isn't all the stuff he does, it's how he has to restrain himself from using it all to rip everybody apart and, the whole planet with it. And I don't think there's any real way to, well, on a superficial level, and to hand it to a developer with these timelines that they have to, work with to make something interesting out of it. That's how we end up with fly through my maze.
You don't think Insomniac could make a good Superman game? You really don't think so?
I feel like something would be lost because Superman can do too much. It's just, when he has to pull back, that's when he's interesting.
Yeah, but those were those Zack Snyder movies, and that's why they were terrible.
See, that's the other thing. I don't think in my lifetime there's really been any Superman movies or TV shows that really hit the mainstream. Certainly nothing that resonated with people like Batman or Spider-Man.
I mean, the Superman movies people actually like are older than even me. So,
yeah,
exactly. So it's and those are fine, but it's also I like Superman Returns. I may be the only one. I kind of love that movie, but that's not something that really hit with everybody either. And Man of Steel is the worst movie they ever seen. So I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is the movies, but there was good Spider-Man games, or at least for the time good. Remember, people love those Spider-Man PS1 Dreamcast games, right? And those are before the early 2000s movies, right? So I don't know.
What was it? Was the Spider-Man PS1 game before the Tobey Maguire movie?
Oh yeah,
the
for
first one?
sure.
Yes.
Yeah, because that was 2002. Those Spider-Man games are 98, 99.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So
I would have thought the first Spider-Man movie came out in the late 90s.
No, it's definitely 2002. You know why? Because the soundtrack had fucking the guy from Nickelback and the guy from Saliva doing a duet. You remember that shit?
Oh my god! Oh yeah, the hero song.
Yeah, the hero
Is
song.
that- yeah.
And the guy from Saliva didn't really do anything. I think he just let Chad Kroeger like just kind of emote over it. But yeah, that's about as 2002 as you can get.
Jeez,
So
what a time!
Oh, I know. Anyway, I don't know. I would love to play a good Superman game. I'm not like a huge Superman fan, I guess, but I don't know. I always feel like that could be something good, even as constrained as Steve would say that it has to be to make it work in character. I think that's fine. I'm willing to buy anything that they want to put on it besides fly through rings because I constrained your power. But I don't know, man. I wish that could happen nowadays. Unreal Engine 5 Metropolis Superman game. Come on. Just give it to me. Anyway. So, Baldur's Gate 3, it's begat a varying amount of discussions. They're all kind of related to each other in a way. So, let's just kind of go through what got this started. So, before the game came out, or maybe shortly after it came out, I forget when, some developers had some tweets about Baldur's Gate 3. So, James Berg tweeted this. I'll just read it verbatim. I would not be surprised if Baldur's Gate 3 was more dev effort than the next 2 or 3 games in the genre combined. It's Rockstar level nonsense for scope. Only a few studio groups could even try this. I can't wait to play it, but this kind of effort likely won't be repeated this decade. Okay. Xavier Nelson Jr. had a 10 tweet thread about it, and I'm not going to read all that. I will read the first tweet. And he said this: like a lot of people, I'm deeply excited about what the lovely folks at Larian Studios accomplished with Baldur's Gate 3, but I want to gently, preemptively push back against players taking the excitement and using it to apply criticism or a quote-unquote raised standard to RPGs going forward. One more tweet I'm going to read. Ryan McCabe quote retweeted that and said, "This is a great thread about why using a singular game to set expectations for everyone developing titles in a genre isn't useful and instead foolhardy." Can we just start there? I'm sure you can hear the exasperation in my voice already. Steve, say something, please. Help. I can't believe they did drone strikes. They did preemptive strikes on a country of Baldur's Gate 3 before the game even really hit the masses. That's unbelievable.
If Steve is too riled up, I can start us off here.
Go ahead.
So I've tried to look at this kind of from the perspective of a employee at a developer, not a studio lead or anybody up the food chain. I get the frustration from the perspective that it would be frustrating to have the constraints of being told we need to make this as fast as we can, maximize how much money it can make. If we're getting like very severe issues with the tech or whatever, this is the date we've targeted for release. It needs to get done by that point. I get that frustration. It's got to be creatively frustrating to not be able to work on projects like Baldur's Gate 3, because of all of the powers that be. But and I get that they can't publicly criticize that without feeling their job is in danger. But this is an ideal time to say, hey, that is great for Baldur's Gate 3. I hope we see way more of this and to like amplify that sentiment rather than try and like disincentivize the public from expecting it. The public expecting that is good for employees that aren't in those higher up positions to be able to allow pressure on developers, pulling up their socks a bit.
Yeah, because I don't think we're going to go directly to these guys and say, you fuckers, how come you didn't? No, we always put it on publishers. We always say, hey, Ubisoft, do better. EA, do better. I don't think we go to like developers, hey, why didn't you make the game like this? Because usually their hands are tied. Ubisoft tells them what to make and they make it or whatever. We know that already. We're not mad at them. We're mad that they're not allowed to do better because these other publishers keep giving us less for more money. Is Steve not verklempt enough now to talk with us?
Sorry, it's just that hearing all that out loud like threw me for a loop. I mean, I've been reading everything again and again, but just hearing it said, it rattles you. It rattles a man a bit.
Yeah.
But, it's been a year, guys, 2023, where we've seen games on both sides of, I guess you might call developer passion. You might remember a few months ago when everyone was just being a big bitch about everything. Remember that episode? And it's probably not going to stop. I mean, I think it's more, it just screams volumes how morally broke everyone is when I didn't buy this, but Andre, is Jedi Survivor still broken?
Yep.
Still broken. And if I know I've been picking on Xbox a lot lately, but I'd be terrified of Starfield's impending release in just a few weeks.
Did you guys see the leaks? Reviewers have it in their hands already, obviously. Lots of people are saying, oh boy, 25 frames a second is kind of a pipe dream sometimes. And so this game may not run the best. These are just rumors, obviously, but those never not turn out to be true. So we'll see.
I mean, that aside, even if it like boots up and it's okay-ish, you can now point at something like Baldur's Gate 3 and you're like, well, this was also in development forever. What the fuck happened, everybody?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love for shareholders to start chiming in, especially since this isn't the first one this happened. We already had Zelda come out this year. It's not, it's doing the best it can on Switch, but they also said, hey, we gave it an extra year of time because we felt it really needed it. And I think we all believed it showed. Mm-hmm. And so did everybody else. I mean, and there's no easy answer because, as I like to keep saying, and we need to just make a t-shirt of it, video games are a business. So
I just don't get all of them coming out afraid of this game, being like, hey, don't think we can do this, because like, I get it. Maybe they're not allowed to make a game like that because of where they work. I understand, like, Take-Two won't let them make a Baldur's Gate 3 because they'll never have that kind of time and space and money, and they won't see the value in it. I get it. I'm just saying it's kind of weak to come out and be like, well, don't expect anything better. I mean, come on, man. Like, okay, so then this got kicked into high gear when Destin Laguerre from IGN released a video essay about these tweets. It kind of spurred him to do a thing on it. And let's just start there. Kevin, I'm sure you watched this video. What did you think of what he said here?
Yeah, I thought it was exceptional, and I thought good on IGN for publishing that. I don't hate IGN as much as some people do, but I would never look to them for, anything beyond surface level topics, right? This video was insightful. And they weren't afraid to be assertive with, the devs that were saying this. It didn't come off like they were afraid of pissing somebody off. I'd love to see, big outlets like that take more of a stance on stuff like this. I think that's important for the industry.
Absolutely.
So to have like the biggest video game media conglomerate type place put out a video like that, I thought was fantastic.
I thought so as well. And whether you agree with it or not, I think it's just great that it happened. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even that because, there's stuff I agree with the video and stuff that I don't, Steve.
I think that part of it's great too, but I'm also curious of how much of that is actually allowed versus, not. I mean, we already saw how much happened with Jedi Survivor a few months ago when they're like, well, we need to be nice and have two separate reviews for that. And one for graphics and one for the game, even though it all sucked. For Baldur's Gate, where no one seems to have a rooted interest, now we can have the objective editorial on it.
It is strange when you put it that way. Like now they're taking a stand for it. But I again, I think better late than never. I am glad that they're doing this. So, I think the only thing where I think the video went astray, I think that's probably a little strong, but he got into like just the state of AAA gaming. Like Baldur's Gate is microtransaction free. There's no DLC, like scummy AAA bullshit or whatever. And while he's correct, I feel like that kind of muddles his overall point in the video a little bit. I don't know how you feel about that, Kevin. I feel like, I'm not saying he shouldn't have said it, but it was a large part of the video. I'm like,
Just
okay,
by
I
making
understand.
a blanket statement of saying we shouldn't be supporting DLC, period, where, we're happy to get a lot of DLC if it's done right. Is that kind of...
Yeah, it just felt like it took away from the, hey, developers, stop looking at Baldur's Gate 3 and being scared point. I think what he was trying to overall say is that we need to expect better from publishers in general.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why he brought it up. And obviously we do, but I don't know. I thought it muddled the point a little bit, but also Baldur's Gate 3 is 100% getting DLC unless they are allergic to money. Like it's happening.
I think they were very clear that it's not going to be a thing though.
Really? You're skeptical.
I mean, especially after this discourse, it would be hard to walk that back. Unless, I feel like the statement was very like nothing will be monetized. This is a complete game.
Okay, but I've been buying lots of complete games for that just happen to have, more game that I could buy. There's no shame in it.
I don't think there's anything wrong with DLC as a concept. I don't know that advertising that your game doesn't have any DLC is necessarily like, oh, we're so virtuous. I mean, like maybe it is, but I don't know. I feel like it's a weird thing to hang your hat on. Unless you're selling us horse armor, I don't think you really have to worry about it as long as the DLC is good. So what? That's just how I feel, though.
I think a year or two at the Game Awards, we'll be casually hearing about whatever a DLC expansion
They're
is.
winning Game of the Year, right? They're absolutely winning. I don't see what else can... What, Zelda?
I think Zelda will win.
Okay. Zelda or Baldur's Gate 3, for sure. Did Breath of the Wild win in 2017? I don't remember. Okay, yeah. So there was an article I read on Insert Credit. I don't want to get into it too much because I feel like it was really misguided. But the guy in this article went off on the early access part of it. Well, Baldur's Gate had 3 years of early access, and that's why it's so polished. And I'm like, look... You're telling me these multi-billion-dollar companies like Ubisoft and EA don't have their own quote-unquote early access? That's called the thousands of people who work there. The reason why early access exists in the first place is so that smaller companies can get feedback that they otherwise wouldn't have access to. Not so EA can put like Jedi Survivor in early access or something. That's not what it's for. They have the resources. Larian doesn't. So they had to do that. So I don't know what he's talking about.
I kind of feel like, okay, so if Jedi Survivor was in early access, is that a problem though? Like I as far as I'm concerned, any game that wants to go into early access, regardless of the resources that the developer has, do it. It's very transparent when you sign up for you're buying a game in early access, you know what you're getting into.
Yeah. So I just don't like, it's just bullshit. He also said in this article, like, well, how come Tears of the Kingdom is so polished? Because Nintendo has billions of dollars and they can afford to wait and release a game until the time is right. Yeah, you know who else can? Electronic fucking Arts.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what are you talking? Who cares if something is in early access? They took the time to make the game right. And no, it's not perfect. Yeah, there's some bugs even now that it's out because you're not going to be able to catch everything because games are such a monolith now. It's impossible to catch everything. We understand that. But you can't just sit there and say, oh, these other companies have infinite resources and early access is the key to, it's like, come on, Steve, like bullshit.
Even simpler than that, a lot of games just die in early access, like just, and even on purpose, like as a Kickstarter scam thing. Oh, we technically made a thing. We get to keep your money now. So I'm really not buying that angle for a second. So what are you trying to tell me? The system worked as intended? Is that the big argument you're trying to throw at me, that they used the system and it worked? Oh no.
Yeah, it's weird, right? So it's like, okay, so everyone can afford this kind of polish, I guess is my whole point. You don't have to have billions of dollars to do it. Just take your time and make the fucking game. It was a choice for Electronic Arts to put Jedi Survivor out when they did. They could have put it out right now. Nothing's been happening this month. Something's about to happen as of this recording in a few days with like Armored Core 6 and like a few other games that are coming out right now. But they could have had the whole of August and late July to themselves if they wanted to. And they didn't. They had to launch before Tears of the Kingdom. They did that. Nobody else made them. So it's like, I don't know, man.
You know what else rubbed me the wrong way about all of these tweets is it seemed like everything was kind of like, don't expect things of this scope with this level of polish. And the thing is, people want the polish. They're not necessarily looking for the scope. I don't think barely anybody is saying, I want to buy a game because it's got this massive, massive open world that you're never going to see all of, and you can put 500 hours into this game. Like, that's not really what 95% of consumers are looking for. They want the polish. If we look at the opposite end of the spectrum, we think about games, we've talked about Ape Out and Thumper. Those games had very limited scope and they were absolutely celebrated, and I think they did very well. And somewhere in the middle are games, that aren't indie studios that are your AA, AAA developers can still make these games. And if the problem is that Baldur's Gate is setting a high precedent for scope and polish, then down the scope to the point where you can hit the polish and just prioritize properly, because that's what people want.
Yeah, like Dotemu announced Windjammers 2, in 2019? They didn't release it at the beginning of 2002. They sat on that game probably a year longer than everyone expected just because they wanted to get it right. And that game has never had a patch, ever. That Windjammers 2 is version 1.0, and it's perfect the way it is. They released a game. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with patches, of course. I'm just saying that like they got it right the first time. And there's something to be said for that, and I feel like that's not unattainable by anybody who wants to make any kind of art. Get it right. So whatever. But there was something John Linneman said a while ago, in one of their, I think it was a DF Direct. I think it may have been in reference to Redfall or Final Fantasy 16 or something that had performance issues. But he said that frame rate is a design choice. Because it is. That's something you have to decide from the ground floor before you start building graphics and what kind of worlds. Is this going to be 30 frames a second? Is it going to be 60 frames a second? It's going to be 120. We have to budget for that in the scope of this game. Nintendo does that all the time. They know a Splatoon is going to be 60 frames a second. So they build their worlds, their game, their maps around that.
Not their hubs, though.
Not their hubs. It's tough when you go into the lobby and then it's running like ass. It's like, oh my God, get me back to the game, right? But that's one concession. But obviously, they think about those kind of things. And as Steve said, I've had Jedi Survivor since launch, and performance mode is still a fucking mess. Did you see they announced last gen versions of those games? They're going to make one for PS4 and Xbox One. Did you guys see that?
How?
I don't know. But they're doing that, and they can't fix the one they have right now? Get the fuck out of here. Am I going to have to download the PS4 version of Jedi Survivors and so I could run it in like PS4 Pro mode at 60 frames a second?
Are you sure that version's not going to just brick the PlayStation?
I mean, fuck.
We will see unprecedented levels of anger from Andre.
I mean, that's what people had to do for Elden Ring. You remember that? People were downloading the PS4 version and running it on their PS5 because that was the only way it was stable. It's like, get out of here, man. I'm not doing that. I'm still fucked out of $70 because reviewers didn't tell me the game ran like shit. Not that I go to reviewers for everything, but you know what I'm trying, like, that should have been part of the conversation. Even though Luke Plunkett doesn't think that's his job, even though it is. So, like, you know, that's why the common fan is so, like, adversarial towards, like the devs and journalists sometimes. And I'm gonna say it because people might take that the wrong way. I 100% do not advocate for harassment or threats or any things that these devs get. I think all of that is bullshit. Stuff like that should never, ever happen for any reason, for any game, no matter how much you got fucked out of your money. Stuff like that should 100% never happen. So let me make that perfectly clear. At the same time, like, when a developer comes out and tells me that Baldur's Gate 3 shouldn't be our expectations, my one and only response is fuck you. Like, that's the one thing I refuse to budge on overall else. And it's not Gamergate bullshit to say it. That's what the insert credit article said. That they said the IGN video review had like some Gamergate edge to it. I'm like, fuck off. No, it didn't. I remember what that shit was like 10 years ago, and it didn't sound like that. So stop. But I guess that's all I got to say about that.
Oh, God, 10 years ago, Gamergate and a whole bunch of us pretending Super Mario 3D World was pretty okay.
What a time, right? And I'm sitting here playing Need for Speed Rivals, tapping stuff on my Need for Speed Rivals phone app, trying to fuck with my friends who weren't playing Need for Speed Rivals. So.
I wish before we did this story, Bobby Kotick stuck his head out and he said the same thing. He's like, "Oh, I hope nobody expects this from now on."
I know, right?
that harassment statement would have been out the window. You would have been telling everybody, send pictures of your bare assholes to Bobby Kotick.
Yeah.
If his personal email ever gets leaked, he's going to get so many dicks in his inbox and buttholes. It's going to be great. Anyway, I think I'm tapped. Steve, you got anything left to say about the Baldur's Gate discourse?
Yeah, guys, do better.
What else you got to say?
No, guys, really do better. It can be done.
Kevin,
do extra better. Oh. Yeah, no, I am out of all of this. I was glad to see IGN take a stance. I think that was a positive, and I hope that empowers, the GameSpots and other bigger outlets to say we're not going to just, suck it all back all the time.
Yep. All right. Well, is that enough fine in the time? All the fine, all the time. Now you're mine. Follow us on social media. Check the description of this podcast to find links to our social media. See you next time. Bye.